Hello YouTube, it's Trust, and welcome to the Bear Hug Radio, the greatest podcast on Solana. Today's guest is none other than the best Solana YouTuber, Headsauce. You absolutely need to watch this episode to know more about Headsauce's journey into crypto and to get to know Alpha on the Solana space. Don't forget to hit the like button to support the channel, and subscribe if you want to know more about the OGs in the space. Links are in the description for Headsauce's socials. Go follow my guy. Cheers to the Bear Hug Radio. I'm really happy to have you. Elon Musk cup.
On a very controversial mug.
Honestly, I wanted to have you on the podcast for a while. First, I'm a big fan. I've been watching your videos for a long time. And second, I think the Solana space is it's too small, so I think people should get to know each other, and people that are here in the bear market need to stick together. Happy you're here, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was looking through the catalog of videos and audio that you have, and am I the first non-OK Bears guest, or did you have someone else before?
Well, I had Eric, and I'm planning on doing like a segment of Solana YouTubers asking one or two questions that I'm gonna put together after. But I want to get to know a lot of other people also. I mean, you ask your friends first, the people that you know, to get on the podcast, and then now I'm trying to branch out a bit and have other people.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say thank you for opening it up outside the OK Bears community, because I know you had a lot of really active members in the OK Bears community, but you're right, it's a super small space, right? Especially now when things are a little bit quieter and people are a bit freaked out because of all the things that have been happening with FTX and whatever. So yeah, it's an honor. Thank you for having me. And GM for me, I guess over in your side of the world, it's almost GN.
Yeah, GM. Yeah. That's why I have my coffee, my branded coffee, Trust NFT.
Nice. Did you make that mug yourself?
Actually, I have talented people in my family. So my sister does my art. You can see the Michael Jordan here. She did that for my birthday. My logo is actually done by one of my students.
Wow.
So she's in graphic design, and She worked on my logo. At first it started like this, and then you can't see it now, but it's gonna be on the corner. I added the Bear Hug Radio.
Very cool. I have a background in graphic design as well, actually. That's where I started my humble career as a graphic designer many years ago. So yeah, I can appreciate good design when I see it.
Let's talk about your background now that you mentioned it. What are you doing outside of crypto?
I work for a startup. So I've worked in tech and in startups for the last 7 years or so. So that's my full-time job. That's what I do. I'm a product manager and also design and UX. So the thing with startups is that you often do many roles, and that's kind of the fun of it. When you work for a big corporate, which I've worked for before, you're more like a small cog in a giant machine, and they give you a very specialized role and you don't really have much impact. And I did that for maybe 4 or 5 years before I moved over to startups, and I just got super burnt out with just not really being able to have much impact on anything that happened. And then I moved to the company where I'm at now, and I've been there for 7 years. And you just kind of do everything because it's just the nature of a startup that's growing, right? You have to wear many hats. So I came on as a designer and design and UX. And then recently, the last few years, I've gotten into product management, which is more around the strategy of the products that we build. I work with engineers and engineering teams, make sure they know what to build, help them to get it delivered. And do a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, it keeps me really busy. And the YouTube thing and the content creation thing is just a big passion of mine that I've been doing for a couple years now. And hopefully move full time to that eventually. But right now, with the market being so crazy and stuff, it's probably not the greatest time to jump into full time. Yeah. I think it's all about just building it up, right? And when it gets to the level where I'm happy with it and I think, okay, this is actually something that I could potentially move over to and live off, then I'll do it. But I don't monetize my channel. I don't take sponsorships. I don't do any of that stuff because I'm kind of the notion of just build something super awesome, make it as valuable as possible, and then opportunities will come later. And maybe that's not the best way to think about it. But I don't want to be thinking about like monetizing and all these things straight off the bat, because I think it's going to interfere with the type of content that I create if I always have to think about sponsorships and all these things while I'm still building. So yeah, that's how I'm approaching it.
Where does Headsauce come from? Curious to know if there's a cool story behind that.
Actually, I've talked about it before a couple times, but I started the YouTube channel like a year prior to when most people know me, when I got into NFTs. So it's almost exactly to the day that I changed my channel over to NFTs. I started in December last year making content. But before that, I had like a whole year of making content on other topics, primarily on YouTube. And it was more around self-development, personal growth, and these kinds of things, like, habit building, how to be more productive. And I was just workshopping sort of like names around that, because that niche was like quite saturated and a lot of people just use their own names. And Headsauce is just basically like another way to think about like your brain and like improving your brain. Because to me, like, Headsauce is like what's inside your brain, like the things that you think of and all those powerful thoughts and habits that you can build. So yeah, it just kind of came to me randomly when I was workshopping stuff, and it fit really well within that niche. And then when I carried it over to NFTs, I think it still works, and I think it's a really original kind of name. Like, I've never heard it before, and all the domains are available and stuff like that, which is something you should definitely do if you're trying to build a brand. Make sure you can get the Twitters and the Instagrams and the YouTubes. So yeah, it's just stuck, man, and I like it. I think it's like an original. A lot of people have a non kind of names in Web3. It's a lot more of the culture, so it actually worked quite well when I changed over. Same with you, like trust, right? It's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
There's actually been a few trusts. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm Trust and Phil, but that's like a big story behind it. I don't know if you want to hear it.
Yeah, go for it.
So I play Ultimate Frisbee. I don't know if you know.
Yeah. I don't know you play it, but I know the sport.
Okay, so I don't know. I was playing with my friends. I was a little new to the sport, and I was just like into it, And one of my friends threw it to me, and I dropped it. And then he threw it again, like on another point. I dropped it, and he's like, "I trust you, man. Trust and Phil." And then I started running down the field, and then he threw it, like, and then everyone on the sideline started chanting like "Trust and Phil, Trust and Phil." And then I caught it, and then it was.
It's amazing.
So it just
like you're moving.
Yeah, exactly, and then it just stuck. What are your hobbies outside of crypto? Like, what do you do for fun?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I've always been someone that's been pretty active. So like, I like to get up and get some exercise in every morning. So I'm part of like the local CrossFit gym around here, which is pretty cool. I have a dog, which is like a job into itself, like a German Shepherd Labrador. So he keeps me busy. And the place that we live here is, it's like outside of Sydney by like an hour and a half. And it's like a national park area. So there's like trails and hiking. It's like kind of the mountains. So we spend like a lot of time just being out, hiking, trekking, things like that. It's super beautiful here, and you only have to go like a couple minutes down the road to find some really awesome trails. So yeah, just, apart from that, just hanging out with friends and things like that. But yeah, we spend a lot of time outside, which is kind of good, I think, in crypto and Web3s, because you spend a lot of time on a computer. So I make sure like all the time that I put in behind the screen, researching, filming, whatever, I try to have like an equal amount. Like when the weekend comes, I'm pretty much not online at all, as much as possible, and just get out, be in nature, touch grass, as they say.
Yeah.
So good for your mental health, man.
Yeah, no, I get you. And like, I actually did CrossFit for about 6 months. It was like the best shape I've ever been in my life. It was amazing. It's addicting, but yeah, it's just expensive though. So like, I did it right after college, got in really good shape, and we were doing that. It's just so addictive, like I was doing it like 6 days a week. And the CrossFit where we were at, they're not even open on Sundays because they say people do it every day. So
us, yeah, it's only till Saturday. Fitness is so important, and you don't even have to do CrossFit or whatever. Even just getting out and going for a walk or something like that. I think I notice it a lot when I don't, when I get into periods. Usually when I like take some time off and my routine has been messed up. just affects the way that you think and your moods so much more than what I think a lot of people realize. So just being able to get 20, 30 minutes in a day or whatever it is, it's an absolute game changer. And I've experimented with many different types of exercise, you know. I got into running for a while, but I like just going to a place and someone just screaming at me and telling me what to do, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan it. I just, whatever. Like pick up the thing, put it down, run around, and then I'm good. So that's the thing that has worked the best for me. If I'm left to my own devices and I have to schedule programs and think about days when I'm going to run and this and that, it's just too hard, man. And I'll always just end up not doing it eventually. So yeah, I need firm instructions from someone. I need not to think. I need to just go in, get it done, and get out.
I know what you mean. It's really fun for those of you who never done CrossFit. You'd have to try it. I think you have to try it once, and then like you get hooked. The only thing is it's expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you're super keen on it and you don't want to spend the money, it's kind of like weightlifting and like high intensity cardio. So you could kind of do some of the stuff like just on YouTube and whatever. There's like a million people that have like 20-minute workouts, and you could just use like a kettlebell, or like you could just literally get one set of dumbbells and then just, you know, you could do so much with that. So there are ways around it, but then again, you know, like I said, for me it won't work because I just don't have the discipline to get up every single day and think about what I'm going to be doing. I'd much rather let someone tell me. But yeah, whenever you have an instructor or something involved, you're always going to pay a premium, right? Like same with like yoga, all these other things. It's like a couple $100 a month. But you know, invest in your health, right? Like I would probably spend that amount of money on an NFT and not think much about it.
What brought you to crypto?
I've always been someone that has been a little bit, I wouldn't say like counterculture, but like I always have gone sort of in the less traditional path. And like when I was growing up, I was super into computers, like when I was little. And like I remember my parents got our first computer, and I would just spend hours and hours on that thing, like tinkering around. This was like pre-internet, so there was really like not actually that much to do on it. We had like Windows, and they had like a pinball game. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
There was like a pinball machine game. There was like Solitaire was one of the other games. Like it was, you know, I must have like played so many hours of that stuff. But I also just was like fascinated by the computer itself and like trying to like go through figure out how it worked and the files and whatever. I think it carried over to school because like I was always like choosing the classes like software development, computers, things like this. And actually funny story, towards the end of my like schooling career, I got suspended and almost kicked out of the school that I was in just before I graduated because I like basically broke into the computer system, like hacked through the system. And they had this version of, it's basically like a Google Drive, but it was before Google Drive existed. And it was where all the files were, like all the exams and all the resources and stuff. And I managed to like break in there with like admin level access and I just, being young and stupid, I wanted to do, you know, let them know that I had been there. So I just like hid all of the files, like every single file that was on the whole drive, like all the exam files, everything, and just left like a notepad note, which said like, you have been outsmarted. And then it had like a little code where it had my name and you could figure it out. It was just basically like a code that you could, and obviously like they managed to figure out it was me, not because they like could figure it out through the system, but there was a kid in my class that sort of noticed that I was up to something a little bit sketchy, and they went through like, you know, this interrogation process and he basically cracked and flipped on me. And so I've always been interested in technology. It's a long way to say it, but technology, computers, and going around different sorts of traditional ways of living, right? So when I started working in startups, I had a guy that was really into crypto, and he was like, man, have you heard of this thing? It's like Bitcoin, yada, yada, yada. It's like super cool. And that was just completely, you know, knowing my history was completely down my alley. So I first tried to mine Bitcoin, and that didn't work very well. And then later got in and bought it when it was like, I think it was about $900, $1,000. And at that same time, it was when Ethereum was getting popular as well. So I bought my first Ether for $11. And everyone's talking about smart contracts, but like no one knew, the concept was good, but like we didn't have any examples of what it could be. So yeah, it pumped to like $300 or $400, and I sold a whole bunch of it, made like many thousands of dollars, and thought I was like the smartest person in the world. And then that was that whole crypto craze of 2017, like late 2016, 2017. And basically anything that you bought that went onto Coinbase, because that was like the main platform back there, would pump. So like, you buy Litecoin, you buy Ripple. And I did that for like a whole year. And then towards the end of that year, that's when Bitcoin was at like $20,000 around Christmas time, and it all started to just crash. So I got freaked out because I'd just been like riding the wave the whole year and sold everything. Just like sold all my Bitcoin, sold all the ETH, sold it. And was like, this thing is crazy. Like, I thought it was going to go to zero, because I had never experienced such a, seismic crash of an asset like that before. And so basically I put my head in the sand for like the next 3 years and was like, I don't want to hear about Bitcoin. I don't want to hear about Ethereum. I don't want to hear about anything. And only came back to NFTs and crypto last year, 12 months ago, basically, to the day.
Did you kind of lose most of it when it started crashing and you started selling?
I didn't. I still walked away with like profits, okay. But it's that old thing where when you had so much, like you had a level of profits and then that gets like cut by 60 or 70%, and then you sell. Even though I made out with like a decent profit, I had known what was there before that, So had I sold like a couple of weeks before or whatever it was, it would have been like 4x the amount that I ended up selling for. But yeah, biggest win. I mean, like I bought Bitcoin at 1,000. I think I ended up selling it at 11,000 or something like that. Like whole Bitcoins. Ethereum was like $11 when I bought it or thereabouts. And I sold it for like $200 or $300. Litecoin was like, can't remember exactly, but I think when it came out, it was 20 or 30 bucks. That went up to like 400. Ripple, I think I bought it for like 30 cents and it went up to like a couple dollars. It was like anything, every one that came on initially, like Ethereum and then Litecoin, whatever. It was just this thing where as soon as it was listed on Coinbase, it just pumped. It's kind of like what NFTs were, prior to the big bear market. Like if you knew there was a hyped NFT collection, you knew that thing was going to pump, and eventually they settled back down. But what I didn't think would happen was that it would repump again to the level where it did. Bitcoin went up to 60, 70,000 or whatever it was. Ethereum was 5K. I kind of just thought it was this one-time cycle where we rode it up to the top and then it crashed down and it was done basically. Like this whole thing was done. Obviously it wasn't, and for people that were patient, that were accumulating during that time, you had to have a really strong resolve. You could have made like generational wealth there, right? Like, Ethereum went down to 80 bucks, I think, again at some point. So you could have got back in at very cheap prices. I kind of feel that's where we're at with Solana now, to be honest. That's why I'm still here, because I've seen this happen before with, all the big boys. And now I'm seeing it happen again with Solana, where we rode that up to that $200, $250. We've come right back down to where we were in the beginning. And I'm like, I made this mistake once before and I just cashed out and left and missed the next 3 or 4 years. I don't want to make this mistake again. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm still here, because I believe in Solana, I believe in the tech, and I have this historical context that keeps ringing in my ear. Like,
it's going to come back up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's no one knows, but it's a bet that I'm willing to take, right? Like, if it is huge, like I think it will be, you want to be around now, right? And you want to be accumulating when it's $11.80.
So are you DCAing now, or are you waiting until it hits a bit lower?
Yeah, I've been DCAing. I use Binance, and they have a feature where you can, I know, but I cash it out. Well, see, the thing is, there's no good way to do it unless you use an exchange, right? Like, this is the problem. You need an on-ramp. But my strategy is like just cash out every single week. So you can set like a rule in Binance where you set up like a daily buy for whatever it is. And then at the end of every week, I just bring it over to my personal wallet. And that way, if anything happens, then it's only, and it's not much. It's like, $10 a day DCA in and whatever. So the most you're out, if everything turns to to shit and Binance is actually insolvent, which who knows, lose like $70.
So it's always good to be safe, like on a cold wallet and stuff like that. I think it's most important.
It's so hard though, because we're the kind of people that know that. We're in the space every single day. But like I have a guy that I was like good friends with that was really active in NFTs earlier in this year, like many people when it was pumping. And we used to meet once a month and chat about it and have a great time. And then he sort of just went dark, for a while when everything started crashing, which I think a lot of people did. And then he reached out to me via Discord, like once this FTX thing was happening. And he was like, this was like 2 weeks later when everything was done. We knew they were bankrupt. And he's like, hey man, people telling me like not to use the FTX app. Like, is that a thing? Like, should I not be using it? And I'm like, yeah, it's done. And he's like, well, how do I get my money out of there? I'm like, oh, buddy, dude, I'm so sorry, but I think it's gone. And he just had been paying attention. Like, I'm sure a lot of people, in crypto every day. He thought it was interesting at the time. Then life came up. He had some money on the exchange, and never in a million years would he probably have thought that would not exist and would go to zero. But these are the challenges that we face, I think, from like onboarding people that are not super into Web3 or super into crypto. That's he'll probably never go back to it now, right? You may have lost him for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about like onboarding normies, like people that are just here to like, hey, like I want to put some money on the side, or like they're not like making it their life or actually looking at it at least daily. The thing is, you get scarred, man, and like you're gone. And a lot of people that lost 80% of their money, if not more, are just like not coming back.
Even the just reminds me, because this is top of mind, I have a lot of my personal life friends know me as like the crypto / NFT guy, because I've had all this history with it and stuff. So they often come to me with questions when things come up. And one of my good friends over the weekend bought some of the Donald Trump digital trading cards. Yeah. And he messaged me on Saturday. He's like, dude, I bought these cards. What do you think? And I was like, okay, firstly, that I'm like into NFTs. Why wouldn't you ask me about this before you bought them? Because I thought for sure it was just like going to go to zero, which I think it will still, but I didn't realize it would pump as hard as it did. So he bought like 2 of them for $99, and then he wanted to sell them. He's like, I want to flip them. I just want to make my money back and whatever. And it was so difficult to sell these freaking Trump cards, because they like created a wallet for you on some other random wallet, which wasn't MetaMask, and you didn't need to create the wallet. They created it for you. You just needed to give them an email. So you didn't have access to like your keys or anything like that. And the NFTs were not in the wallet that he created, and there was no way for him to like retrieve them. And then he had to bridge them over because they were like on Polygon. And in the end, he ended up selling them and making a decent profit. But in the process, he sent his Polygon to like an ETH wallet, and he's just lost it now because he didn't convert it over to ETH. So he's just like, I'm never, ever, ever doing this again. This is the most horrible experience. And this was this morning. So from Saturday to Tuesday, at least in our time, he's been trying to figure this thing out. And I was like, yeah, this is really hard for people. Like the friction is so high if you're not involved in this every day. It's like a very challenging, and there's no like warnings when you're sending money to wallets that won't accept it to tell you, hey, don't send this here because it might not work. It just lets you send it and then it's gone. I think we have a long way to go in the user experience for people that want to come into Web3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think guys like us, we need to make out videos for newbies.
It did get me thinking about that for sure. Like, is it worth investing more time into just some really basic fundamental content around like, this is kind of what a wallet does, is how to set it up. These are the good wallets, these are the bad wallets. I don't know, you're probably right.
Because I started with beginner videos, or like videos that like, 5 upcoming projects and stuff like that. And now I'm like more focused on doing some interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. And I want to continue doing that. I think it's fun, and I really enjoy like just talking to people and getting to know them.
Absolutely. And I guess it just depends, like, what do you want from the channel, or what do you want from Trust, as a personal brand? Do you want to move into Web3 full time, or is this just something that you do the same way that you like play frisbee, just like a little bit every week because you enjoy it? I think depending on what your goal is, it changes the way in which you create, right? Like if you have the goal to build this up as like a business one day and live off it, then that's a different mindset to like, hey, I just want to meet cool people and make interesting stuff, because that's a totally different mindset. And, you know, having that other mindset where it's like, I just want to make cool stuff, I want to talk to cool people, probably is a lot less pressure on you, you know, to be like hustling as hard, because you have all these other elements in your life that you need to look after, right? And Web3 and NFTs is so hard because it just never stops. It's the same with crypto, right? It's a 24-hour 365 cycle that's just like on all the time. There's always news, there's always things happening, always different time zones active, so it can swallow you up if you let it.
Yeah, exactly. Something that was like relevant a few months ago and then come back up, and like I often look at the top 10, you know, like on Magic Eden or Hyperspace and stuff, and then I see some projects pop up. I'm like, hey, what happened with them? During mint season, I was really into Discords everywhere. I was like like looking on Twitter every day, because the information, you needed it, because everything was pumping. No one wants to lose money. I was doing more of a flipper mindset. I was trying to like do the long in a few projects that I really liked, and now they're almost at zero. So
it makes you feel better. Many projects have gone that way. There's only a few big projects that have continued to either like hold their value or even go up a little bit, because I think now attention is, like I said, there's just so much stuff happening, but there's also not that many new people coming into the space right now. So you have like all these projects fighting for this like small market of people, and then you just have like DeGods and these giant projects just take the lion's share of that, right? When you look at like the market size graph, right? Like, you know, Soul Sniper has this beautiful graph which shows you the size of every collection. You've got like DeGods, which is like enormous, and then Utes, and then like Utes Tubes, you know, and they chew up like 30%, just those three projects, all from the same team. So, but it's the same in the real world, right? Like you have the big companies like the Apple, the Facebook, the Googles, they just swallow everything up because value accrues to like these large, big players that just have more and more resources that can do so much more.
yeah, exactly.
What about OK Bears? What's happening with the OK Bears team? They've anything interesting going on with them?
They got a new hire. It's looking really good. Our Alex was an interesting quote saying like basically our weaknesses are now our strength, because the things with hibernation that went wrong and stuff like that. Like if you look at the boombox that minted, it went super well, man. The website was amazing. You know, like you clicked on it, like similar to the Utes one where it was like cool and animated. When you clicked on it and you minted it, it was very similar. And like the boombox had like the lo-fi on it, and like the website was top notch and everything was good. And now we're doing like Twitter battles, so you'll see a lot of people with the hashtag OKBears and stuff. There's a lot of things happening in the background, you know, and you know, like we have a big war chest, you know, so like we're made for the bear market. Yeah, it's not as active as it used to be, you know, like when it was a bull, but all the big players, we're still all in the chat. We're always on VC, you know, talking, getting to know each other. A lot of new faces though, a lot of new faces and stuff like that.
Nate Rivers, what happened to that guy? Is he still around?
Well, I think Nate is just like most people, down on his money, or he's actually just living life. His time's not really worth it now. He's probably doing things in the background, but he's just not vocal about it. Like we just haven't talked about it. There's no rupture or anything. Like we've been talking to, because I'm in the builders chat. Yeah, we asked the question like, is he out and that? But no, he's just doesn't feel like being vocal. So he's still there, still holds, and yeah. So it is looking good. Everything's positive. Wagbo, right?
They have one of the biggest potential like of any project, right? They have like really good fundamentals. The art is clean. Kais and you know, incredible designers and whatever, but their one issue I think is that they just don't know how to like market themselves and get themselves out there in the way that they should do. Like I know that Kais is a bit more reserved and he doesn't like being a hype man or whatever, but they have like a lot of cool stuff that they're doing, and like you said, big war chest, but it just doesn't feel like you hear from them enough. You know what I mean? It's like, I hate it, right? Because there's this like thing where you have to keep the attention, right? And it can be exhausting, but I think you need to do that in this space. You need to be holding that attention, and like some people it doesn't come natural to. It comes natural to someone like Frank, right? So you can see he's out there tweeting, live streaming, whatever, and that's a big part of the success of DeGods. Obviously they can deliver stuff and they really care, but you know, there's a big piece of it which is like the Frank effect, you know, and I've spoken about it before. He makes a difference like that. one person. Because if you think about all the other players in the DGods team, they kind of all, like the foundation team started together. There's a couple of them, but Frank sort of took that leadership role. And I think that comes naturally to him, even though they all sort of started at the same time. And I think OK Bears, I sort of thought Nate Rivers would do that a little bit because he was quite vocal and out there. But obviously, yeah, I know, you can burn out when you're in this space all the time. It's like we talked about, you gotta go out and touch grass because it can swallow you up. With more of that, putting yourself out there and trying to get more attention on the project and actually talk about the things that they've done, they could move to the next level, Well, because I'm in the space and I don't know what OK Bears is doing and I'm interested in them. I've made videos about them. I'm like, and I actually don't know, like I couldn't tell you the last thing that happened, The gold coins is probably the last thing, and the mustache thing for November.
Not enough people are talking about the IMG deal. Like that's a big thing where there was a missed opportunity there where the new hires, not a lot of people knew about it, and it kind of like it was yesterday's news. It lasted like 2 days, the hype and stuff. The IMG deal is big because as soon as like one product comes in, like a big brand deal comes in, it's gonna be big because like you're gonna need to have a few of them before that deal goes through and stuff. And then we're working on Twitter, we're working on NFT Inspect and stuff, trying to be the top collection. And I feel like when a brand deal comes in, it's gonna be big. People that are in the Coral DAO, especially a lot of people from UK are very vocal, like Glock, who's in the Coral DAO, and like Arj, and a lot of the people that are in the spaces, I see them on my feed every day, and like a lot of people, Polly and a lot of guys there.
That's what that algorithm does, man. It puts people into like their, obviously you're an OK Bear and you're like passionate with that community, and so that's your feed and you see that, and that's the issue, right? Like they're not breaking out into like someone like me, right? Which is on Twitter quite a lot. It's exhausting, but I think, what does it look like outside of this space? I was thinking about this the other day because I was like, okay, is there like a sustainable way to continuously having to drive attention? Isn't that just like a losing battle for projects to have to keep announcing things and doing things? And then I looked into like Apple and I was like, well, Apple does this. Like Apple has like their conferences in like March, July, and September, and they're hyping things up all up into those conferences, and there's things that are being leaked. And then this year alone, they had like 20 new product launches, like improvements to the software, completely new things, updates to the watch, updates to the phone, updates to the Mac. And that's how you keep attention. And that's how you become, they're constantly delivering new things. They have all these different product lines, each one they can talk about. They have the software, they have the hardware, and that's what it looks like, at scale in a giant, top 5 company. And I'm not saying that like, OK Bears has the resources that Apple does, but it's not just in Web3 that you need to keep attention. It's also like when you move out of Web3, this is how these big companies do it. And Google has a similar model, right? When they've got the hardware, they've got the software, they're constantly like announcing things, getting people excited. And that's why a new iPhone comes out like every single year, right? Like it's about that new product, it's about selling that new thing, it's about keeping that attention. And maybe it's just the camera is a bit better or whatever, but they make a big deal about telling you that the camera is better, right? Even if it's like slightly better.
Yeah, the Bears have the map now, like people are starting to pin themselves on the map, and like kind of like what the DGods had in the beginning, and there's a few other things, like that are brewing in the background. I'm privy to like information or things that are happening in the background with the builders, especially because what's pretty cool is the community is working for itself. So like the bear map is actually made by community builders. There's a dressing room now. So like if you see my bear, you're like the holiday spirit and everything, like with the hat and everything. So all the bears can just input their number, and it's like seamlessly, like you can take out the hat, take out the glasses by a click of a button. Everyone can dress up their own bear. PFPs,
it's like trait shop or something. You can swap out the traits. Yeah,
exactly. You do that free, and in a few clicks you download it. It takes about 5 seconds if you want it, or you can just like look through the catalog. Of course, it just happened recently, and again, those were made by like 5-6 bears from the community, and even merch is coming out. Again, like you said, probably you're not hearing about it. Like I'm privy to information and stuff, and it was said a month ago or a few weeks, a few months ago about the builders wanted to have more information, but we're kind of privy to like 20% of the information, and there's a lot of things brewing in the background where they will choose when to like sprinkle it out there and stuff like that. But yeah, there's cool things, man.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
I wanted to start a new segment. It's called the 10 fast questions. I'll give you two choices, and you have to choose one without any explanation.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah. I'm game.
Okay, so it's a little mix of like getting to know you and a little bit of NFTs to like throw you off your game a bit. So the first one is coffee or tea?
Coffee, man. I'm not a tea drinker. My wife drinks tea, and I hate it.
Number 2, Indian food or Mexican food?
Mexican food.
Long term, who do you have, OKBs or D-Gods?
I have to go with D-Gods.
Okay. Football or rugby?
Do you mean American football?
Yeah, soccer, football, or rugby?
Okay, yeah, football.
Football, okay. Which side are you on, Frank or Alex?
Frank, man. That's not even...
Okay. Kais or Subi?
I like Kais.
Kais, okay. Tayo or SMB?
That's a tough one. That is actually quite difficult. I'm gonna go with Tayo because SMB itself is not much. It's the monkey DAO. But yeah, Tayo.
All right. Big collection, 10,000 or small collection?
Big collection.
Okay. Utility base or PFP?
PFP.
OKB or Rascals?
OKB.
And Jersey or Cody?
Good question. I have to go with Jersey because he's still in the game, the content game. I mean, Jersey's also got Experiment, but Cody's got his focus on Bet3 now, which is cool. You know, whatever he's building. And I see the YouTube channel slipping, man. I'm like, don't see those uploads, bro. I haven't seen upload for a while, man. So yeah, we got to give it to Jersey. Running experiments, publishing the content, doing the live streams. I watched his live stream the other day and I was pissing myself laughing. He's a funny guy. Like, you know, he was opening the utes and he was getting like non-rare utes, and I was literally laughing out loud watching that.
Yeah, I was watching. Well, Cody was there too, actually. Cody, actually.
I love them both. But you made me choose, right? I couldn't say both.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, no need to explain. Like, just choose one. I like this.
Yeah.
The only one that really surprised me was the Tayo, because I remember I watched your video recently and you were like big on the SMB and the future of it. But yeah, I do understand, you know, like especially Tayo's right now with the pilots coming out.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's like a cultural significance of SMB that you're not going to take away. Whatever happens, so like whatever that's like cemented in Solana history, but I got to give props for Tom for like and the team and stuff, because he's like one of the real guys still here, you know, investing his time and he's a smart dude. So I want him to win, you know, I want him to do well because I can see that he cares and he's putting in a lot of effort building that tire brand, and he rescued it, right? Like it was a rug, right? So that's pretty cool to come in and save that brand.
I think it's like, I don't know, you can compare maybe Tayo's to like D-Gods, where it's the big guy, you know, like Tom and Frank, and then where SMB is like a community. There's no like one man. It's like it's the monkey DAO and stuff like that, everyone working together.
And the monkey DAO seems to be like really cool. This is just my assumption, really cool if you're in it, but not necessarily like outwardly cool for the community, if you know what I mean. It's sort of like a bit of a boys club, like, yeah, okay, if you're in there, we'll hook you up. There's like investments going on and people are going to help each other, which is awesome. Like, that's a great use case for NFTs. But I feel like Tayo, and I could be wrong, like sort of maybe he's like out to benefit the ecosystem as a whole. Like I was talking about all the stuff he wants to build, including like the Web3 only fans. But you know, like there could be some cool stuff that they actually build that could like help the whole ecosystem. Because if you could build like a subscription-based service that you could pay in crypto, just like let's take away the OnlyFans, that could be cool, right? That's a major piece of tech.
Yeah, definitely. Are you gonna mint a pilot?
Yeah.
You're on the list?
I got on the list. think I was right as soon as that application process came out. I was like, I've been here before. A lot of people like complain about the scholarship thing. Like, oh, I don't want to have to. It's like, cool, bro, don't do it. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to.
because you got nominated Uteless, right? That's where you got yours,
Yeah.
or did you flip yours to get the gold one?
No, I that's the one I opened. I didn't choose my Ute. My Ute chose me,
Yeah.
man. It just came to me. My strategy was actually to hold it, the tube, because I was like, seen this before. If you hold the tube, as the supply goes down and there's still one of ones available, the price is going to go up, which is exactly what happened. But then I thought, well, if I sell the tube, this is the whole point, right? And there's something good in there. Like I'll always regret it. So then I'm like, you know what? It'll make good content. So I like opened it on Twitter, I made the video about it and it went pretty viral. It got like, I don't know, 13,000 views or something like that on Twitter, which is pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to keep it now. And it's like, says that I minted it and stuff. So it has that like mint from day one, which I like that. It keeps, and at the time as well, I wanted a PFP that was an NFT because for ages I was just rocking the headshot. I was like, you know what? I think Utes could be that PFP because I was there from the start, because I was thinking like DeGods, but I wasn't there at the beginning of DeGods, like I was around, but I wasn't part of that culture. But I was here for Utes and I was part of the Ute list. And so it felt a little bit more authentic. It's kind of like you with OK Bears. Like you were there at the start, you bought it. Did you mint the one that you have as your... Yeah, same story, right?
Yeah, well, it's similar story where like I got in from the Moshi heads.
Yeah.
It was a first come first serve, and I just went straight into the Discord, made a video about the OK Bears, and Subi gave me the whitelist. I was really lucky.
I remember they were doing that thing where they were getting people to retweet for like a week. Every day they had one.
Yeah, they were giving hundreds per day, man.
Yeah, exactly, like a couple hundred a day. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't really want to retweet this. I feel like, it's a bit spammy. And because I didn't know. But yeah, you could have got a whitelist if you wanted. Obviously, we thought they were going to be run to 250 Sol when Sol was at like $60 or whatever it was.
I knew.
Yeah,
I knew.
You did.
No, but
you knew they were going to go back down?
Honestly, like, I mean, I didn't sell. I mean, I knew it was going to go high. Like, I didn't know it was going to go to 250 and, like, pass over the D-Gods, but I knew that it was special, You looked at the art at first, and, like, man, it's something we haven't seen before, Like, it's that quality of art, and where it was just, everyone's okay, man. Everyone's just okay. Like, there's no peasants, no kings. Everyone's part of it, and that's why they started giving whitelist to everyone, not just influencers and everyone. So yeah, of course there was flipping at the beginning because if we're giving it to the influencers and people that have been there for a while, like of course they're gonna keep it. They're not gonna flip it or whatever, So it's like just started like an effect where there was like a beginning of the ETH heads coming to Solana a bit. There was eyes there with the open sea, like the open sea that started accepting Solana NFTs. It was just like perfect moment, I think, like it was just I didn't think it was gonna go like crazy like that, but like some people sold at 10, some people sold at 20, and some people rebought after. But man, I'm just like, I'm gonna ride this wave. And then when it came to like 160, 120, that's when I went, like it was a week, and I'm like telling my friends like, man, it's worth like this much, like 10,000, starting like, hey man, it's worth 15,000. I'm like, what am I doing? And then like it was just so hype, man. I grew like so much on Twitter. I had like thousands of people add me in like a few days. So it was just like, nah, I'm keeping it. And then I'm like, when it was at 2 something, and I'm like, nah, it's going to go to 500.
260, that's it. I've looked into it. I'm like, that was the tippy top for like the floor. I got 260. It was like somewhere around $15,000-$20,000 depending on, what you had.
Yeah, because if you listen to like other YouTubers, I know that like Cody bought at like 190 or something. If you're buying at 190, that means like you think that it's gonna go higher, because we had seen it with like Boryoku dragons. But yeah, of course they were a smaller collection. It wasn't 10,000, but you can see, like
because like at that time when OK Bears was popping off, I think it was like when it got to the top, Solana was at like $60. Actually, Solana was crashing as they were going up, but Boryoku was like at the top and Solana was $200 and $250 or whatever. There was a lot of people saying it's the next Bored Ape, you know, because it had that Bored Ape silhouette and it was very similar, but it was like super polished art. And first I wasn't sure like what was going to happen, right? I had like 10 Sol in my wallet or something. I'm like, let's see, like, you know, if it goes for like less than 10 Sol, I'll just grab one, right? Because it was 1 Sol mint or 1.5. So I'm like, I get one for 7, 8 Sol initially. And I just was trying and I could not get one because everything was just being sniped so quickly. And then I loaded up like, I think I put like 30 or 40 Sol in my wallet. And I tried and the price went like 10, 15, 20, 25, 35, 40. And then I was like, forget this, man. Like I was trying for like a couple hours, but like Magic Eden was broken at that point. Like you literally could not buy unless you had a sniper.
Yeah, you need a key. Did you watch Grish's video about him like sniping like 4 bears? That's what made me like him a lot. Like I'm like, Grish was a cool dude. He seems like a funny youngster and stuff. But like when I saw that video, I'm like, man, that guy's smart. Like
yeah. He's made some good flips. He's done well with D-Gods as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I watched that video and I bought a rare key because I'm like, people are going to buy this rare, and then I flipped it. Like I doubled my money on the rare key because I think I put like 7 or 8 and sold it for like 16 or 17. Because then everyone watched that video and everyone was like, I have to get one of these rare keys.
Yeah, I'm thinking of buying one. Like now it's at 8.7, 8.5 or something. Yeah. I'm thinking of buying one if it goes to like 7 or something.
The reason they work is if like the reason it worked then was because it was like the OK Bears hype mint, right? And then that led off from this hype mint season where you had Community 3, you had Triple Ape, you had all these mega great goats, and it was like that vibe was there, and like people were sniping, and you could just insta flip for profits in a lot of these cases. But now there's no catalyst, like there's no big mint, you know, that's going to push the volume to insane levels where you need to be sniping stuff. The only thing I would say is if there's a way in which you could like figure out to snipe rares with it or something, and you could set it up, and if a rare goes on the floor or a super rare, you know, grab that or whatever. But if there is a catalyst in the future where like you have some big mints, I think that stuff always goes nuts. Like before Utes, I think a lot of those keys were going really well.
Yeah, because I was looking into making a video, you know, on like nodes and stuff, and seeing, you know, like, well, what are the best ones, you know, like I know there was the Hydra scripts or Hydras, and there was the Soul Rarity key, and I was trying to make a video on that. So I'm like, I'm gonna do some research, and some of them you have to like pay a monthly fee, you know. So I'm like, that's why Soul Rarity key is like so interesting, because even if you paid like 16 Soul for it or whatever, and like you didn't have to pay every month and stuff like that, you can probably make your money back if, like you said. But for me, it's like a long-term investment. I'm trying to check like, okay, this is gonna be like, there's gonna be a bull run at one point where like mint season is gonna maybe come back. Honestly, it's not gonna come back for another few months minimum.
Yeah, I think you'll get it for cheaper. If you keep an eye on it, I think they'll go for cheaper. Even if you throw some offers out there, like some low ball offers, you never know. Someone might be a bit desperate to sell. The nodes, they need to pay every month to like manage that infrastructure, so they pass the cost, and they can be quite expensive. So they pass the cost over to, but yeah, it's a lot. Like you're like, pay for this thing every single month. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Coming back to the OK Bears full circle, there's never been a mint like that, I think, ever. Like, and since then, Utes did well, but that OK Bears, and I know because I'm working on a video about like, it sort of touches on this topic for next week. I've been thinking about it a lot. And that OK Bears mania that happened at that point in time, I've never seen anything like that since or prior to that. That was like the catalyst for, you know, people starting to take Solana NFTs really seriously, like more ETH people, I think. And you went on your timeline and that's all you could see, you know, like,
because
should I buy a bear? I'm on ETH, I'm going to sell my ape, I'm going to buy bears. You know, you had like Nate Rivers, for example, like a lot of people like that. Huge. He was one of the guys that, or HG, he was like, you know, 9x9x9 on ETH, and then he bought that coral bear. He was like the first, was it a
coral? The coral, like,
200 on secondary. He just like picked it up like that. So he had like big names coming over, and that's what you need, right? Because it gives other people confidence. They're like, okay, some serious like players coming in.
You need like the big guys, like Fazy Banks at one point was in, people like serious people were in. They're like, no man, we gotta get our bear. And like you said, like the thing is, there was also Trip and Ape. It was bigger than OK Bear after because there was more hype on that one. The biggest downfall was it started at 65. The bid started at 65, where all the smaller people were not able to like push it up, where it stayed between 65 and like 85 at one point, or maybe 75, where
it went down after like it
Exactly.
started here and then just boom, and so the vibes are cut short. And I think the only reason that happened was because of OK Bears. I think that OK Bears opened the doors for that to happen. Like there was a lot more attention on Solana. That's why all those other mints that happened after that, like that brand season where everyone was doing a branding mint, OK Bears pioneered that wave of attention. And then, you had the 500,000 followers on Twitter and, it was nuts. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's talk about your videos, because honestly, my favorite series was the 1.5 Sol, and it's actually the video that brought me into Sol. Like it's pretty funny because I remember seeing your video, the first one, it was yours, and then Cody's also was going on both at the same time. I'm not sure. I don't know if you know which one was first. Like, did you see his or did you think he saw yours?
He actually replied. It's funny you say that. He replied in a comment the other day. I like put a tweet up and he's like, your videos inspired me to like create on Solana, because he was making content on ETH for a little while before me. And I came to, like I said, I'd been making YouTube content for a year before that. So I was like, I knew how to make a video, but I had never really hit any big videos in my other niche. It was incredibly saturated. And then I found out about NFTs and I got really like excited about like the tech, and all these things started coming to me. Because I already had the channel, I was like, I should just make this an NFT channel, because I want to like spend the next 5-10 years just like learning about this technology. And if I create a channel, every week I'm going to have to come up with things to talk about. So it's going to be like a nice way to learn about things and just share them when I'm, researching and stuff. So I went over to ETH. I actually bought my first NFT on Tezos, which is that like random blockchain. That was pretty like awful. So then I went over to ETH and I was playing around there, and the gas fees were just like crazy. At that point in time, it was like $200 for like one transaction when there was like a hot mint on. So I thought, this is like a little bit weird. Like no one's going to want to come in and spend $200 just to buy an NFT. Like the NFT has to be worth way more than that. So that's when I came to Solana, because I started doing some research and people were like, Solana, NFTs, zero gas, etc., etc. And what better way to learn how to trade NFTs than to just freaking do it and start flipping them? So I'm like, I'm just going to document this and see what happens. So I knew from my other YouTube experience that like people get really into series, and like if you just do something as a beginner, it resonates with people more sometimes because they're also beginners. So I was like new to flipping NFTs. I'm like, let's just document this and see where this goes. And that's where that series was born out. And I think that's why it worked for people, because I was like, I'm not a pro. Like sometimes I listen to people that like do technical analysis and stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest, because they're like pro traders and they talk like pro traders. But the people that were coming to Solana were newbies. They were like, I don't know anything about NFTs. I don't know how to trade NFTs. So I think it hit a nerve with people like yourself that were like, what is this thing? And I wasn't pretending to be some like master trader. I was just like, I'm just a dude. I think I said it in the intro. I'm like, I'm just a dude with a YouTube channel. Like, let's just see how we go. And you and so many people have said to me that was the video that brought me into Solana. And at that point in time, there wasn't a lot of Solana content. So I think it was just one of those things that people were served a lot if they were looking at Solana NFTs, because there wasn't a lot of competition. I know Jersey and Ragnar were making content, but it was more around the like what mints are coming up. No one had a flipping challenge on Solana at that point in time. So yeah, it was a heaps of fun. Obviously my best content piece ever to date, brought in like most of the traffic and like thousands and thousands of subscribers. So yeah, if anyone's creating a channel, I think my advice would be, if you can find something that resonates with like beginners and show them how to do it over like a long series, it's a great way to like, make content, because you bring people in, they're invested. People were messaging me like, when is the next 1.5, like DMing me like, when are you going to do it? Please, bro, you got to release another. And that's like, that's what you want in YouTube, people coming back watching it, you know. You want them to have a stakes to come back and actually enjoy it. So yeah, it was great. I liked it. I was thinking about doing another one, but I'm like, no, would it still work now? Like a year later, the market's a bit weird. I don't know.
Yeah. The thing is, like, for sure it would work. I think you would need to like have a little bit of a bear market come back, like calm down. You know, the thing is, like, I was gonna ask you, like, why are you doing the art series? And like you were trying to look for content or look for interesting things that are happening and stuff like that, because I'm sure, like, if you do that 1.5 when it starts kicking back up, that's the way to bring in normies. You know, like, people are in for the money. So like I think my the famous I don't know who said that, but I like using that. It's like, people come in for the money and stay for the community. And I think that's what it is. And like, people at first, they want to know how to make money. They want to know how to flip it. And then with your experience and stuff, you know, that's what I started looking at. I'm like, how am I going to make money? Like, I don't have a lot of money to put in. And I'm like, I have about 5 SOL right now. I'm like, what am I doing with my 5 SOL? So I watched your video, 1.5, and then Cody started doing it, and I started watching his, and then there was Jersey, and then there was Ragnar, and then I actually joined Ragnar's Discord, and that's where I like had a bit of information. I'm like, okay, like, I'm gonna flip, I'm gonna try to find whitelists, and it was just interesting because I think a lot of people just wanted to know how to flip, you know. And then you start getting into communities and stuff, because it's actually awkward in Discords, you know, like, hey hi and stuff, where when you hop in the VC, there's certain communities where you go and then you have a good time. You come in the next day, have a good time. And then, like, for me, I didn't really get into any of the communities. I got into a bit of like the Drippies community, and then
I was in that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And there was just cool, genuine people. And then then I got into OK Bears, and I got them from the beginning and everything. So I was like, I started becoming more and more involved, and that's where I started doing the Bear Hug Radio, where I want to get to know people in the community, and then that's where it got from there.
I think you put it really interestingly around like people come in for the money and like stay for the community. And that was something that I kind of struggled with when I was after that, because it's something that I realized, but I'm like always not sure exactly how to create content around that, because I'm also sensitive to the fact that people are investing money into NFTs, and like there's a risk, right? Like that you could lose that money, right? And I know a lot of people that come to Solana don't have a lot of money to spend because they, you know, there's like, maybe they like, it's a younger audience, you know, they could even be like in school and stuff like that. So I always struggled with just trying to figure out what is the best way to like make content to be sensitive to, like, you know, the risk that's involved in trading NFTs. And that's why I started to explore other topics, because I'm like, there's so much here, you know, there's so much like good stuff, and there's so many good people and good projects that you can support that aren't rugs. And that's like how I came to the art world, because I'm like, I see all these incredible artists, you know, they're making this incredible art, they're just passionate about what they do, they're not going to rug you. And that's why I'm just trying to like lift up the art community, because I'm like, this is actually a really cool piece of Solana that no one talks about. But you know, people, you're right, people not interested in that as much. People want to know how to flip and make money and whatever. And that's why when you look at those artist videos, they get like the least views out of anything, because it's just a niche within a niche, you know. It's like, it's a small community still. But I think there is potential there. And I think part of what I see my role as a content creator in Solana is almost like a historian in a way. Like, I want to document what's happening here, and I don't just want to do one thing. I want to be like, here's like all the amazing stuff that's happening in Sol, you know. And I think art and the one-on-one scene is part of that. And it would be really sad if like no one captured that, and then, you know, in a couple of years it's gone, and all the videos on my channel are just like, here's the hot project that's now a rug, you know. Because a lot of those projects that I featured when they were like exciting, like a lot of those basically gone to zero. And you know, they were hyped and like people were excited about it, and nobody knew what was going to happen. But when you look back at that content, you're like, okay, this project's no longer good, this project's a rug, this, you know, and you don't know beforehand. But that's just the nature of the game. There's like, people come in, they try and make projects to make money, and they have no intention of building. And that's where it gets really hard to create content around that, because if you feature a project on your channel, people might buy that project because you spoke about it, because they trust you. So where's, you know, and that's a big responsibility, at least I feel like it is. So I started to get a little bit conflicted about which projects I would feature, and then I tried to reach out to the teams and talk to them, and it was just like it's hard, If it's not financial stuff, it's not as bad, but because this is people's money, I feel a responsibility to other people about things that I recommend, and it's hard to know what is going to succeed long term.
Yeah, and Frank has talked about that also. Like he, every time he tweets, like he gets hundreds of likes and ads, and like he said something one day, and then boom, everyone starts selling everything on Solana was down. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm retracting everything. And I remember him talking about that, and it was like, oh wow, and yeah, because I know like it's tough, like same as you. Like at one point, there's a new project, it's hot, you have to get them either before they're hot, and when they're hot, I mean, it's too late. Like I remember trying to get the Trip and Ape, like I saw them pretty early, trying to like get to trying to interview or try to get to know a bit of the project behind the scenes and stuff. And like, if you're not at like 10,000 subscribers or something, like they won't even look at you or anything. And like, even then, like if you're saying you're struggling, then it's tough, like tough to get like the real information also, because every time you make a video about it, like people get angry, like, oh, you support a rug. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm just telling you about this project. Like I'm not telling you to buy it or anything, like even if you say like not financial advice, and people take it as such. But
it's all about like trust, right? And the reason people, if you think about why someone might watch yeah, exactly, it's in the name. But if you think about why people watch YouTube or whatever, go to Twitter, it's because they're trying to find out like information, particularly YouTube, trying to find out information about NFTs, NFT projects, what are the good NFT projects, and they don't have the time to go into the level of detail that we do as researching content creators and stuff. So they just kind of take what you say and they're like, hey, okay, he's done the research, I'm going to trust him, and if he's featuring this video, it must be worth looking at. And even if you say it's not financial advice or whatever, the fact that you're featuring it means that you must think it's interesting, and that's kind of enough for most people to sort of, because they don't have the time to go in and do it. So that content's been hard, and I've stepped away from it like many months ago, not doing like the hot mints anymore. I did like a Utes video because I knew that like they're a reputable team, and moving forward I still will do that, but only when I like can almost guarantee that the mint is going to be from like a reputable team. Like Claynosaurs would have been a good one to do if that's the kind of project that I would feature. Someone like that's like real industry experience, can prove it, is building something cool, you can see it. That would be a project that I would feature. But I don't think I'll ever do a video again like you see the 5 upcoming mints, and I don't think I'll ever make that ever again.
Yeah, because it was conflicting, because I interviewed in one of the projects, and then I'm like, like I was really hyped about it, and then the more I got to know the person or got to know the project, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna succeed. Well, I already interviewed them for about an hour. I'm like, do I put it out there? And like, that's where, like you said, like I've interviewed a few other people that are not in the OK Bears and stuff. I'm like, do I air it and stuff like that? After talking with the person, I'm like, like, I don't know, should I just premise, or just have a conversation before I tell them to get on the bear hug, and stuff like that. I think that's what I might do in the future, like, hey, you want to hop in a Discord call, just want to get to know you. I just want to ask a few questions. Are you game? And then at that point I would be like, look, I do a podcast, you want to do it? If I'm interested, if they're interested also, like the Claynosaurus was an interesting one. Everyone knew it was going to pop off. The ones recent now are like, of course, Tayo Pallets. I would want to talk to Soulport Tom, but I think that's going to be really tough. There's also Knittables that is minting tomorrow. I don't know if you have, do you have whitelists?
No, but I know the project. It looks like pretty high quality as well. It's all about, at least for me, reputation, and what people think of you and how they relate to you and your channel and the content that you put out there. I want to have a long-term view of this thing, because I'm not just here, I've already been here for 1 year, and I'm not just here for another year, I'm here for the long term. And so for me, building equity in my reputation is more important than trying to get views or whatever initially, because I think long term that works out better. As people that come in for the quick cash grab or whatever, are just going to take as many sponsorships as possible. I think, you know, over time those people will fade out. And I mean, you can take sponsorships. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think it needs to be disclosed and it needs to be upfront, you know, because there's a lot of like shady stuff that happens behind the scenes that people don't know about. But you know, I don't have anything against sponsorships. I just think you need to know who's sponsoring you, why they're sponsoring you, you know, and for example, taking sponsorships from platforms or like tools and stuff would be kind of cool, or like Ledger, or you know, these brands. That kind of makes more sense to me than getting a project to sponsor you, because all they want is eyeballs and you can't really guarantee the success of the project or anything like that. So it's a bit difficult, but I think if you play the long game, you just build with, you know, that in mind, like trying to be authentic and trying to have actual valuable information that isn't tainted by someone just paying you to say it, I think you work out better in the long run. If you're here for like 6 months, you want to make as much money as possible and you just want to take heaps of sponsorships, yeah, maybe that's an option for you. But I'm trying to focus on like a long-term game and build a long-term content empire. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just curious, do you edit your thumbnails and do all your videos? Because I'm looking at I did some research yesterday. I kind of looked at some of your thumbnails. They're really fire. Like, I'm just curious, like, if you do them and where do you edit them and stuff like that? Do you edit your own videos? And if so, what do you use? Final Cut, Premiere Pro?
I do all the thumbnails, yeah. So all the thumbnails are me. And the videos, it's a thanks. Well, I studied graphic design, so hopefully I can work out how to make a thumbnail. But yeah, I've got a lot of compliments on the thumbnails, which is cool. I really do enjoy doing it, so it's something that I keep doing. In terms of the videos, it's a bit of a mix. Like, I think for anyone learning, and like if anyone getting into YouTube or whatever, I think it's important for you to learn how to do the thing first. Like, I think it's important to learn how to edit videos before you hand it off to someone else. And that's what I did. So I learned, I didn't know how to edit, but I started and I edited like 30, 40 videos, something like that, before I then was like, okay, I feel comfortable now that I know what I'm doing and I can actually get some help. Because the one issue with me editing, I use Premiere Pro, by the way, and thumbnails, I use Photoshop. So I just take a lot of time to edit. So I think I worked it out, it was about 10 hours to edit a video for me, which is like a lot of time for me considering I work. And I can outsource that to someone and they can do that and I can pay them, and then I can use that 10 hours to come up with new ideas and do the thumbnails and do all these other things, which I think is a better use of my time than spending 10 hours a week editing. So I have an editor, his name's JC, he's amazing. He lives in the Philippines and we've been working together for like a year and a half. And usually I'll just like, he's done the last 2 videos. I did like the 3 before that. He did the 1 before that. So like when I'm working well, I'm giving him a lot more work. Sometimes I'm a bit disorganized and I can't get it to him in time. And it's just like, I just need to do it. So I just quickly sit down and spend, you know, I'll just stay up late or something like that. So it's a bit of a mix, but my goal moving into 2023 is to have him edit like everything. Okay. I just need to be a little bit more organized. He's really good. He's better than me. He's faster than me. He's better with the music. He's got like a bit more finesse. So, and like I said, if you can free up that time to do it elsewhere, it makes a huge difference. You know, you can put that brain space to other things like writing, scripting, researching, which is, it's more high value, I think, for me.
Yeah, the only issue for me, it would be like the spending the money, you know, like where all my money is going towards trying to buy a house now. So, and then a new kid on the way. Yeah,
I mean, look, it is an expense that you have to pay for, but like, for example, with JC, he lives in the Philippines, so it's not actually that expensive in the grand scheme of things. I think it cost me like $30 or $40 to get a video edited. Okay. Between $30 and $40. That's Australian, so like American, that'd be like $25 or something like that. And that's like, you know, if like 10 hours of my time for like $40 is like 100% worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd say like looking like, you know, the Philippines and stuff, I can send you links to sites and stuff. There's amazing editors over there. And like, I just asked him, what's your hourly rate? He told me, I'm like, that's really reasonable. Let's go for it. Obviously, if you're getting a Canadian or American editor, they're going to be like 10x that or whatever. But cost of living is relative in America versus the Philippines. Same here. If I got an Australian editor, it probably would be $50 an hour. So maybe it would be, you know, $300-400 a video or something like that, which is way too expensive. But yeah, you can definitely like get people that live in other parts of the world, like Southeast Asia and stuff, where that it's like a really good rate for him. He's like a student, so he does like his student thing. This is like his side hustle. So we've got like a pretty good relationship. Like send him like Christmas hampers to his house and stuff. Like say thank you, and he's just like a super cool guy. And I talked to a lot of these editors before I met him. Did interviews and things, and found him, and we just clicked. And he gets it. He gets crypto. He gets all of it. So he's really cool. And it's changed my life with the YouTube games for sure.
Like it's getting a lot easier for me, like just the thumbnails, like I'm getting better at it, like again, everything's preloaded. I've gotten my font now. I'm still working on the color. Like I'm still like still wondering on what's giving me my color. My logo is pretty much set right now. I'm kind of trying to market more like the name Bear Hug Radio and stuff. Trying to switch my Twitters, maybe Twitter, start up TikTok, start up Instagram, and like just Bear Hug Radio. And every time you see that, you see the logo, I'm still wondering if I'm gonna change my PFP to the logo, maybe to like get the name out there. Still wondering about that.
Your bear is like you can have the logo as a supporting thing, but I would say like your PFP is so, every time you change your PFP, it's sort of like when I changed my PFP on YouTube, I lost subscribers because I had my face for ages in the purple. And like I was watching it, and like people just unsubscribed. They didn't know what, like it was me or whatever, this random thing popped up. And it's the same on Twitter and everything. Like you build up a lot of equity in the PFP. Like people underestimate it, but when you change it, people kind of don't know who you are anymore, because they're just like scrolling through and they just miss you, because they're so used to associating you with one thing for months and months and months and months, and then you're someone else. It needs to take them all that time again to relearn who you are. So that's why I chose the Ute. I was like, I'm not changing this thing. That's it. Like forevermore. That's what it is.
Well, for YouTube content creator, yeah, but like where Jersey will change his PFE like every few weeks and stuff like that, and I think it could be dangerous also if you're always keeping the same one, because then you can't, like, if it starts pumping, you need the money or whatever, and if you need to sell at one point, then it could be dangerous.
Yeah, I would say if you don't want to sell it, that's true, because I kind of made that's what I was thinking about my Ute. I was like, I can't sell this now. Like that's it. That's locked away. You can't sort of just like trade. Well, you can, but it's more difficult. So I would say pick something that you don't want to sell if possible, and you get stuck to it. But it's all about what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to make money, don't do that. But if you're trying to build a brand around the PFP, which is what a lot of people are doing, that's an investment in your brand. That's like buying a logo. So whatever you would have sold that PFP for, $2,000, $5,000, imagine you paid a designer to make that for you and lock it away, and that's like what it is. That's how I think about it. I'm like, I've just paid for the branding and the logo or whatever. But if you're a trader, it doesn't. And that's why Jersey changes his, because he sells his PFP. Like he had an SMB, he's had like everything, right? But he sold those, so you can't use them anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to sell my bear at all, but at the same time, it's like you get stuck with that image and stuff. And like, if you want to grow on Twitter, you have to like, there's a new mint, like, are you going to switch it to the PFP for a bit, like for a couple of days, because that's how you create engagement and new communities. Because if you're a Ute, then like there's no sense of onboarding you to my new project, new community, if you're not gonna switch it a little bit for the PFP and stuff. And that's kind of a way people get engagement and stuff, where like, how many likes until I switch my PFP and stuff like that. And a lot of people will use it for a week or like a few days, like, and then they'll switch back and stuff like that. And like it's kind of sucks though that you had to live that, where you switch your PFP and then people just started unsubscribing because they were so used to it, like Headsauce.
And I don't think they knew who it was anymore. Like, and I noticed the views as well, and I was like, that kind of makes sense. Obviously I can't prove it definitively, but like my assumption would be that like people are used to seeing a certain. And then there were some videos where I didn't have my face in the thumbnail as well at the same time. So I think like people sort of see it in the feed and then they're just like, what is this, like good or whatever. It's all about what you're trying to do, right? For me, it's like I said before, I want to build a long-term brand. And for me, that's about everyone recognizing me now as like that Ute, so the more people can identify me as the Ute on the timeline, that's that's better for me, right? And I probably would lose, yes, it would be easier for me to change my PFP to other communities and like kind of farm engagement that way. But I just want to build a base of like people that like my content for the content. It's just like, oh yeah, he's like a whatever, he's a famous fox or anything like that.
What do you think makes your content stick out from the others? Like, what makes you different than other Solana YouTubers, or better?
Well, I think everyone has their own style of content. And I think like, you've got your Ragnar and your Jersey, and they're all about like showing you what is the next project that's coming up. Like if you watch their channels, they'll talk about all the hype mints. They'll let you know what they're about. And that's an important piece of Solana. Same with Grish, he sort of does a similar kind of thing. The path that I want to take is different to that. It's more like down that historian kind of route where I'm trying to document the most interesting things that I find in Solana, right? So I want to talk about not just like what is the hype thing that's happening right now, but I want to talk about like artists that are coming up. I want to talk about what happened this year. I want to talk about what I think is going to happen next year. And these kinds of subjects are a little bit more broad, I guess, in a way. They're not like so focused down on just like, this is the project that you should buy and this is going to make you money. So they don't always do as well as that type of content. But I think there needs to be someone here to document like all the cool shit that's happening in the space. And this is why I made videos about OK Bears. I'm like, they were once great. They're like, things are happening, because people can go back and watch that in like 6 months. If they become, if they rip again, you go back and be like, this was a point in time when they were really struggling, or this was a point in time before the Utes mint, or this was a point in time when these artists were making cool things. And I don't think anyone else is doing content like that. I don't think anyone else is taking the time to look into these communities and understand and talk to these people and really like spend time crafting that story. So historian and sort of storyteller, I guess it would be another way to explain it. I like to tell stories about what's happening in Solana. And that's what makes me different. I'm not saying it's necessarily better or worse, but that's the path that I want to take. And that's what I like making content about,
Who are YouTubers, Solana YouTubers that you enjoy watching or that you follow like a lot?
There's not many of us left anymore, unfortunately. But I mean, like I said, everyone has their own place. So I was watching Jersey the other day, the live stream. I think we were speaking about it, where he was ripping Utes, and I was like literally laughing out loud because he's actually like super funny, and he just has a way of delivering content. So Jersey's definitely up there. I always check out Ragnar's videos as well, because he's just like Mr. Consistent, man. That guy is so dependable. Every week he's going to be coming at what's happening in the news. He's going to be coming at the next project that's coming up. He's also done some interviews. So Ragnar's definitely up there for me as well. And then I watch a lot of like Solana YouTubers. So Giancarlo is like a big inspiration to me. Giancarlo buys tokens. He's on the ETH side, but he also takes topics that are like a little bit different to just like, what are the next mints coming out, and he really unpacks them in a really interesting way. So he's up there. They're probably like the main three that I watch at the moment, I would say. It's an interesting, I think a lot of people that were thinking of creating content on YouTube have sort of backed away now because the audience is not as big as what it was when it was bull time. So the people that are left and are still here doing it, mad respect for them. It's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, well, it's trying to find the content, because there's no interesting mints. Like there are, but they're very little. And so I kind of really like the art aspect that you were doing, the one-on-ones and stuff. It made me like learn about some projects. I was like looking into it while you talked about Maxwell, who's from Montreal. He's like, that's where I live, So I'm like, that's pretty cool, like I got to know and took a deep dive into it, and like we could be neighbors, we don't know. And
and that's the thing, there's people creating stuff all around the world, building projects, making art, and you may not know about them, especially that the artists, they're often quite introverted and not putting themselves out there in a huge way. So if I can bring some people up that like, no one's heard of, that's exactly what I want to do, right? I want to showcase people that maybe don't get talked about because they're not like the next 100x project. You should link up with him, see if he's cool for a chat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my goal, because actually someone reached out to me from the OK Bears, who's from Montreal also, who has a project, and we're gonna be talking recently. We're trying to do an in real life meetup, so that would be pretty cool. Getting to meet people from the NFT space, and like that's my goal, like trying to meet up with people and do like maybe an interview face to face and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. Being able to give IRL bear hugs to people. Yeah, so that would be pretty cool.
Wagbo vibes.
Yeah, exactly. What I always ask people before leaving is, who would you pay money to see? Like, who would you want to see on the next Bear Hug Radio? Like, who do you think would be an interesting interview?
Nate Rivers. Seriously though, because like you're in the OK Bears community, I find Nate Rivers fascinating. I think like he's a very polarizing figure, and I think he would be a fantastic person to interview. So yeah, I think you got to look that up. Where in the world is Nate? Everyone's wondering. It's like, where's Waldo? But where is Nate?
All right, sounds good. And so I'll try to reach out to him. That definitely, like, he's on my list since the beginning. Yeah, definitely want to get to know him.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Fun. I enjoyed it. So good luck with everything, and I'll catch you later, Truss.
Thanks a lot. This is the end of the podcast. If you enjoyed, please hit the like and the subscribe button, and watch the next episode with the link below.